My name is Jessica. I'm 17 years old and I am undocumented. If you see me in the street without talking to me, would it even cross your mind I'm undocumented? For many years, I was told you cannot say you're undocumented. Those words cannot come out of your mouth. But today, I'm coming out as undocumented. And I'm gonna tell you guys what it's like being undocumented, how I found out I was undocumented, and what my life has been as undocumented. I was born in Tijuana, Baja California. My parents decided to leave everything back in Mexico to come to the United States and give us a better future. I came to the United States with my parents at just months. I wasn't even the age of 1. And since that day, I haven't left. I did not swim through the river. I did not jump the wall. I came with the visitor's visa and I overstayed it. My parents have always told me I was undocumented, but I was very young to understand what it actually meant. My childhood was a normal childhood. Didn't worry about anything. I didn't worry about my status. My parents were never home. I was always home alone with my sisters. They were always working and I have nothing against them because they were just trying to give us a better life. I learned how to walk here. I learned how to talk here. I was in English learning classes till, I think it was 5th grade. English has always been so hard for me, but I've always pushed to learn the language. As a child, I've always wanted to be a police officer or border patrol agent. I still go online and watch documentaries on border patrol or police officers, or sometimes I even go on TV and I watch cops. The day I found out I was undocumented, I was in middle school, a police officer went to the school to talk to us. He was talking about his job and I fell in love. I was like, oh my god, I want to do this. Like, this is my dream job. And after that, for homework, we had to do a project on what we wanted to do when we were older. And I remember writing how I wanted to be a police officer. My mom walked in the room and she looks at my homework and she's like, you know you can't be that, right? And I was like, what? And she was like, you can't be a police officer. And I was like, why not? And she was like, you're not from here. And I looked at her with such a confused expression on my face. And I was like, what do you mean I can't be a police officer? And she was like, you aren't from here. And I was like, why? I was like, what do you mean? Like, I was still so confused. And I was like, what do you mean? I've lived here my whole life. Like, what do you mean I'm not from here? And she's like, you're not born here though. And I was like, I know I'm not born here, but I've lived here my whole life. I went to school here. And she was like, yeah, but you don't have that piece of paper, Jessica. And I was like, what do you mean that piece of paper? And she meant like the social security and all that. And she's like, you're not a citizen. And I was like, then how do I apply for that? And she's like, you can't apply for that. There's no path to citizenship that allows us to apply for that. I remember being so upset and crying that whole night, but I let it go and I just did my project and I turned it in. That was the day I learned I was undocumented. And I remember my teachers would talk about going places and my friends were talking about going to Mexico and doing all these fun things. And I was like, I would just sit in a corner, like look down, put my head down, and I would just be like, I hope they don't pick on me and ask me what I want to do in summer vacation, or like what I did in summer vacation if we were back from vacation. I was like, I hope they don't pick on me, because I couldn't do anything because I just couldn't leave the country because I was undocumented. And I knew if I left the country, I couldn't come back, and this was my home. Like, this is all I know. So where was I going to go if I've been here since even before I turned 1? Like, where was I supposed to go if I couldn't return to what I call my home, you know? So in 2012, Obama decided to pass an executive order called DACA. DACA stands for Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. DACA was a 2-year work permit and protection from any kind of deportation. To be able to qualify for DACA, you had to be under the age of 31, enter the United States before the age of 16. You had to be in school, have a GED or a high school diploma, and you couldn't have any felonies or any significant misdemeanors, and a couple other requirements that were like, you had to be living inside the United States before a certain date, and you had to enter the United States before a certain date. Pay a fee of $495, and to be able to apply for it, you had to be at least the age of 15. The process to get DACA was you had to fill out the applications, and then you had to send in proof that you met all the requirements. and the fee of $495. So you send them to immigration. After that, you get a letter that says you have an appointment for your fingerprints. Basically, you go to the appointment and they scan all your fingerprints and they take pictures of you. You go back home and they send you a letter saying if you got approved or not approved. So if you get approved, they send you a little work permit. This is my first one. This is the one I just renewed this year, which doesn't expire till 2 years from now. When you have your work permit, you're basically done. You don't have to worry about it till it's time to renew. They send you a letter saying that it's time to renew and you have to send the applications again, and it's the process all over again. DACA obviously opened a lot of doors. But I remember when I first saw the news that they passed it, my mom was so happy for us, and I was like, why are you so happy? And she was like, because you're gonna be protected, you're gonna be able to work. And I was like, yeah, but I still can't be a police officer because I'm not a citizen or a resident. She was like, Jessica, but you could work a normal job. And I was like, but that's not what I want. I want to be a police officer. So I was just so upset. I was so ungrateful. But now, obviously, I was so young. I was like 13 when I found out they passed it. I was so young, I just didn't know what it actually meant. When I'm older, I'm so happy they passed it and I was able to have a work permit and protection from any kind of deportation. So now let's fast forward to 5 years later after DACA passed. We're in 2017 now. So Trump is president now. Trump had to make a decision to either cancel DACA on September 5th or get sued by a couple of states. Trump decided to send Jeff Sessions to give us the announcement that DACA was getting revoked. I cried so much that day. I was scared. I was confused. The only thing that was running through my head was, I have to go back to a country I don't call home. I don't even know how to pay in Mexican peso. I don't know what life is like in Mexico. And I have to go over there. Like, this is my home. I don't see myself anywhere but here. Let me tell you something. Us DACA-mented people don't qualify for any welfare. We don't qualify for FAFSA. We don't qualify for food stamps. We don't qualify for any government funds. I, myself, have never gotten in trouble by the law. I've never left school. I've always been in school. I've always been a good student. I've never gotten suspended from school. That speech about DACA getting revoked, I heard some words that gave me some hope. And they were, we're giving the Congress 6 months to find a solution. My heart stopped. And all I could think of was the DREAM Act. The DREAM Act would be conditional permanent resident for 8 years. For those 8 years, you have to be in school, have a higher education, work a certain amount of time, or serve the U.S. Army. After those 8 years are done, you could apply for legal permanent resident for 5 years. For those 13 years, you have to follow the laws and you can have any little thing on your record. And after those 13 years, you could apply for citizenship. That is my only hope. You might be asking yourself, why haven't I applied for citizenship? The only way myself could get a green card is getting married to a citizen. And me getting married to a citizen just for a piece of paper, that's fraud. And I've never gotten in trouble by the law. I've always been in school. And I'm not going to get married and do fraud and break the law just for a piece of paper. I promise you, us dreamers that are actually dreamers, not the fake ones that are trying to be dreamers, that aren't following the rules, but us that actually want to be dreamers, all we want is a chance to help this country to continue to grow and provide for this country. Our future depends on people that don't even know us. We want a chance to become someone. It could be a teacher, it could be a doctor, it could be a police officer. We want to be someone. That's all we want. We're not looking for any trouble. And I want the Congress to know. Our lives depend on your decision. You have 5 months to protect these dreamers if you want. We refuse to go back to the shadows. Give us a chance. Now my question is, are you going to give me the chance to prove myself to this country?